Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, Lucas Deathly Source Peasants, Vassals, Minions, Meat Sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And let's go international. This really interesting story keeps unfolding. The United States government going after the automakers. And of course, we had the huge one with VW, $4.3 billion fine for the fraudulent emission. Fraudulent emission systems in these cars. So $4.3 billion fine, and then some of the executive, in fact, the big executive at VW, no bail, and led away, arrested, and theoretically led away in handcuffs. And so the first part of the story I want to talk about is pretty interesting that this is going on. And then, as I often say about the banks and the corporations and everyone else that's involved in fraudulent business practices and this kind of underhandedness, if one is doing it, they're all doing it. And of course, I get instant gratification because now we have Fiat-Chrysler may also get a $4.6 billion fine for emission cheating on 104,000 vehicles. Same thing as VW. And then kind of related to that, we have Takata, the Japanese auto supplier, pleading guilty to these exploding airbag problems, and 3 executives are indicted for fraud and wire fraud. So this scandal is spreading, and I would assume, like I just said, that if VW are doing it and Fiat Chrysler doing it, that a lot of the automakers are doing it, and so we're going to see more of this. But here's the kicker. Here's what gets me. First of all, well, I'm not even going to say first of all. This is it. This is the kicker. Why did no bankers go to jail the last 7 or 8 years? Not one. Not one of them was a prison with no bail. Not one of them was led away in handcuffs. Well, maybe there's one. I'm sure somebody could probably point me out 1 or 2, maybe fall guys. I didn't really, like I say in my previous video, I'm getting a little lazy. Didn't really want to go back and look up just how many bankers, 1 or 2 or 3, that were actually doing the walk, walking the walk. But so, like I say, here's my question. We got all these bank executives all involved in mortgage fraud. These banks are paying pretty minimal fines compared to what these auto companies are making. And then no executives jailed, no executives with no bail, no executives with handcuffs, no executives indicted for fraud and massive fraud. And it's also relative. If you look at Fiat Chrysler, they're talking about emission cheating on 104,000 vehicles. I mean, really, how does that compare to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cases of mortgage fraud, not to mention all the other layers and layers of fraud that go on in the banks and all their practices, Wells Fargo being a perfect example. Anyway, so we have this huge government, judicial, legal effort against all these auto companies right now, and like I say, it's probably deserved. Although one, could also make the argument, well, if you don't really want to fuck with all the big banks because they're too systemically important, and nobody can go to jail because you can barely prove anything and it will do too much damage. Well, what about taking all these auto companies down? I mean, you're hurting you're hurting businesses. You're hurting businesses that employ thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people globally. And there doesn't seem to be any moral dilemma now. But anyway, there's my little rant. So anyway, here we go. U.S. justice system going after automakers, but boy, don't fuck with those bankers. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.